Hey, how's it going everyone? It's Anon here, and welcome back to another Steam 2 video. Today we're going to be talking about competitive, and more specifically, my go-to competitive loadout for this season. I've been switching it every now and then, but this is mostly what I've been using from the beginning of the season, all the way to what I am right now, which is 2500 Glory. This is pretty much the loadout that I've been using. So we're going to go through everything. We're going to go through the subclass, the weapons I've been using, the exotic armor. Pretty much we're going to go through everything. I'm also going to give you some tips on how to use it. And hopefully some of you guys will learn something, apply it to your gameplay, and hopefully do better in competitive. But without further ado, let's actually get started. Okay, so we're going to be starting this off with the subclass. And for the subclass, I use the middle tree arc staff, the way of the current. The way of the current is just my favorite subclass for the arc staff. It's just so good, and it's basically what I've been using ever since it got released, like almost a year ago. And it's mostly because of two things. The first one is because of the actual super. I use being able to reflect things, being able to reflect supers, heavy, use deny damage. It just makes you a super dangerous arc staff that's very hard to kill. And it can a lot of times save your life, especially in situations where there's not a lot of cover and maybe like 3 or 4 people are shooting at you. If you had the normal arc staff, you could probably get melted, use guy getting team shotted. But since you have the reflecting arc staff, you can use reflect, close the distance, and you kill them all. It just makes it super hard to actually die when you're not really taking any damage. It's also amazing at dealing with supers. It's a lot easier to deal with some than others, but it just makes it overall easy to deal with them. Things like Golden Gun, Nova Bombs, Blade Barrage, all those things are things that you can stop. Hammers, things that you don't really have to be afraid of because of range as much anymore. They still have the range on you, and if you put down your guard, they will kill you as soon as they get the chance. But it does make it a lot easier to deal with them. When dealing with this kind of supers, you kind of want to get as close as you can to them, especially something like hammers. Especially if you're going up against somebody that really knows how to use hammers, they'll probably just try to get you with the splash damage, which you cannot stop, and it will kill you. So they'll probably hit you with that. So you want to get as close as you can to people, get as close as you can to a Nova, to a Blade Barrage, to hammers. Not only because it's gonna make it a lot easier to reflect and for them to die with their own super, but also because it's gonna make it really hard for them to actually throw the hammer or their Nova or their Blade Barrage somewhere where it won't just get reflected immediately as soon as it leaves their hand. So you try to get as close as you can to people when they have hammers, goldies, and also a Blade Barrage. If somebody jumps to Blade Barrage you, you jump with them, just to make sure that the knives don't somehow end up behind you or under you, just to make sure that you can reflect everything. Now some of the other supers that can give you some trouble, things like Dawnblade, you could reflect the Dawnblade, but you usually can't really hit them back. Just because they're usually going to be flying up in the air and you won't be able to do anything to them, since the arc staff really struggles at killing people that are right above you. But if they're not actually in the air, they're somewhere like a hallway, then it's really easy to actually counter the Dawnblade. You pretty much just have to deal with them like you would deal with a Golden Gun. You just put up your guard, close the distance, and then you just kill them. Now when it comes to dealing with the other melee supers, this is when it kinda gets a bit tricky. Since you really can't stop any of them, you just have to deal with them very carefully. And your best bet against any of these supers is just gonna be to hit them with the arc staff combo. The light heavy combo that ends in the lightning hands, those crazy amounts of damage, and it will one-shot any super in the game, no matter who they are, and it also has a bit of range to it, so you don't really have to be right next to each other. You only have to be within, I would say, 5 meters from people, and you're still gonna hit them and one-shot them with your combo. Doing this will definitely take some practice, especially if you don't really utilize the combo too much, but every time that you see or hear a super, just keep looking at your radar, see where they're coming from, and before you even see them, start charging up your combo. Do your 2 beginning attacks, so when they round the corner, you can hit them with the last one and just one-shot them and just take them away. Something to keep in mind if you're trying to do the combo is that you could still change your direction when you're doing your slashes. So if, for example, you could do your first 2 slashes kind of like away from somebody, fake them out, making them think that you're running away or that you just lash in the air for some reason, and then you can just turn around and hit them with the actual combo and kill them. Sometimes I like to do this, especially if I'm trying to counter another super that's already trying to kill me, I would pop my arc step in the air, slash away to kind of get some distance between me and them, do the first 2 light attacks forward, and then just turn around and hit them with the lightning hands and just one-shot them. It seems to work pretty well, especially since most of the time people would chase you, so it's basically just a guarantee hit. But regardless, the power and survivability that you get with middle tree arc staff is just amazing, and you should try to use it to its full potential. And this is what makes the subclass just such a good one. Use the super itself. Now the other thing that I really like about this subclass is the actual melee, Tempest Strike. Tempest Strike, while at first didn't seem that useful, it has become basically just my favorite melee in the game. It does some good damage, it has some really good range, and a lot of times people are not expecting it, so you can just destroy them with it. It does 130 damage, meaning that a lot of times you can hit them with the melee, go back into cover, and then just peek and one tap them with a hand cannon. It's really amazing, and this melee I feel like is very underused. You should try to use this melee as much as you can. As soon as you have it, just look for an opportunity where you can actually use it. A lot of the time, I like to use it around corners. It's really good for that. Not only because it does some pretty good damage, but also because you get that little extra hop whenever you actually use the melee. So with that, you could dodge out of the way, and a lot of times it tends to confuse people. So just make sure to use the melee quite a lot. It can go through multiple people, so if people are rushing you through a hallway, you can just quickly slide in there, fire your melee off, do a couple jumps, throw a grenade, and you're probably gonna get a couple kills, just because the amount of damage it actually does. So the melee is definitely something that you should use quite a lot. It does have auto tracking, so if you do put your cursor on someone, it will go towards them. It can be a little bit weird sometimes, and if the terrain is not flat, it may actually just disappear for whatever reason. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so now we're actually moving on to the weapons. And for the first weapon, for our primary weapon, we have the last word, which is, also exotic. And I don't think I have to say much about the last word. I'm pretty sure all of you guys know why it's amazing. It has an amazing body shot TTK. It can also 3-tap people if you hit all headshots. And it's amazing at close range for dealing with shotgun rushers. Or any weapon really. At close range, the last word is very hard to beat, especially if you're hitting all your shots. But the last word will definitely take a little bit of time to get used to, especially here on console when it comes to aiming down sights, because of the super high recoil you have with the last word. And when it comes to the recoil, the only thing that you can do is just pace your shots. You can't really just full out of the weapon at the 225 RPM unless they're like right in front of you. When they're right in front of you, that's exactly when you can actually full out of the weapon. Just make sure that you're tap firing the weapon, even if you're not doing it as fast as you could possibly shoot with the last word. It's going to be a lot more accurate, and you're probably going to end up killing the enemies just a lot easier. That's basically the whole trick to actually aiming down sights with the last word. That you can't really full auto, at least here on console. But if they're not right in front of you, that's when you want to tap fire the weapon. Because if not, you're going to just end up looking at the ceiling or the sky because of all the recoil. Tap firing the weapon is basically what you have to do. You want to really get good at aiming on sights with the last word on console. You want to just tap fire, pace your shots, make sure that they're all hitting on target, and you're going to see that you're going to start to get a lot more 3-taps. That's basically a rule that you should keep in mind when using the last word. If people are really far away, you shoot slow, but if they're real close by, then you fire everything at full auto and try to get them off your face as quickly as possible. So the last word is pretty great, and now after this, let's move on to our special weapon. And I'm sure you guys already seen this coming from the gameplay in background, but it's the Erentil, the infamous fusion rifle that's known for being basically a linear fusion in disguise. This thing is really just stupid. It's good at close range, and at medium range it still does some pretty good damage. Even if you're not really one-shotting people, you're probably doing at least half of their health, making them just be easier to finish off with your hand cannon. The only downside that the Erentil used to have, yes, used to, it was that it was pretty hard to get. It was pretty hard to get an actual good roll from the gunsmith since there was just so much RNG involved. But now, since you can actually just basically farm the Erentil from the menagerie, you can just get Erentils for days. Callus, Papa Callus is just making it rain Aaron Tills on you if you really want to. So yeah, now the only thing that was holding back the Aaron Till is basically gone. And I'm actually really surprised that there's not more Aaron Tills running around. But I think that's just because of all the Lord of Wolves madness that's going on in the Crucible. But I think once that dies down, you're gonna start to see a lot more Aaron Tills. But even right now, the Aaron Tills are really good counter for the Lord of Wolves. That's basically what I've been doing against all the people with Lord of Wolves in competitive, in Iron Banner. Just using the Aaron Till on them and outraging them with that. So the Aaron Till, it's an amazing fusion rifle that you should definitely give a try to, in case for some reason you haven't heard about the Lord and Savior of the fusions, that is the Aaron Till. Maybe in the future it will get nerfed, it just depends how much people end up using it, but for right now I think it's pretty safe from an actual nerf. Alright, so now let's actually talk about the exotic armor I like to use. And since I like to get pretty aggressive with my weapons, the Dragon Shadow just works amazing with my playstyle. The Dragon Shadow basically increases handling in all your weapons and makes them feel just all amazing. And it also lets you reload all your weapons when you dodge, meaning that you could actually run the melee dodge and still get the reload benefits, so you can basically get both dodges at the same time. And it just makes the playstyle of any weapon really just a lot faster. Since you have super handling with all of them, it's amazing. So it just makes your weapons feel a little bit better and gives you a bit of a speed boost. And while it seems like quite a small thing, it actually makes a huge difference and just makes the overall gameplay of the game feel a lot smoother and a lot more responsive because of all the handling. But I think that with this we're gonna end the video. I think this one maybe went on for a little bit too long. Maybe I'd spend a bit too much time on the actual subclass. But anyways, with that we're gonna end today's video. This is the Loadout that I've been using in competitive, and then I've been finding that it's putting in a lot of work in competitive. It does very well in it. But anyways, like I was saying, hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, dislike if you didn't, subscribe to the channel in case you guys haven't already. Let me know in the comments below what has been your go-to competitive loadout for this season. I just kinda wanna see what are the weapons that we see the most in the comments. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care everyone, have a good day.